Lionel Messi, Luka Modric, Cristiano Ronaldo. What do these names have in common? For starters, they're all Ballon d'Or winners, but arguably even more impressive is the fact they all played at the highest level well into their late 30s. They're obviously not the only ones, but very rarely you'd find a Brazilian footballer way past his 30s still competing for the most important prizes in football. So what's the reason for it? In this video, we'll be diving deep into everything that's wrong with the current Brazilian football culture and ultimately uncover why Brazilian stars peak so early, but also fade away so soon. But before we start, if this isn't the first time watching this channel, please consider subscribing. With your help, we've already achieved 3,000 subscribers and now it's time to aim at 10,000. Now without further ado, let's get right to it. For starters, let's kick the obvious reason out of the way. Injuries. I could go on for hours name-dropping Brazilian footballers who can blame injuries for their early downfall. Kaká, Ronaldo, Adriano, Anderson, Pato, the list goes on and on. But why does it happen? Are Brazilians weaker physically? Not really. They are simply more exposed than the average player. From a young age, the best Brazilian footballers are given way more opportunities than any European prodigy could ever hope for, simply because the Brazilian league has less stars than, let's say, the Premier League or La Liga. Even if you compare a Brazilian prodigy to someone like João Félix who burst through the Portuguese league, you still get an astounding difference. Neymar completed 150 games before he turned 20, while Felix couldn't even crack the 50 games mark, even though he was playing in a league outside the top 5. Those games add up. Playing football isn't the same as going for a jog or doing a simple workout in the gym. Football is a sport that obviously takes a toll on a player's body. The more you play when you're young, the less you'll be able to accomplish past a certain age. Still, I know what you're thinking since the moment I've started yapping about the longevity of Brazilian stars. What about Thiago Silva, Zé Roberto, or Fernandinho? Well, to be fair, none of those players went through that many matches when they were young, and looking at their position on the field, they were more protected than the stereotypical Brazilian footballer who usually plays as a striker, winger, or as an offensive midfielder. Those positions are usually the most fun to play as a youngster, but they also come with a hefty price of being a target for their opponents, who, when unable to stop them, usually go for a hard tackle. Couple that with the fact that Brazil's Serie A is one of the most physically demanding leagues in the world, and you get the recipe for disaster for everyone playing the attacking third. But while that's true, there's still a clear distinction between the reasons behind the injuries that someone like Kaká suffered compared to the ones that Anderson endured. Nutrition, lifestyle habits, and discipline play an enormous role in what comes to longevity in football. I mean, just look at how Ronaldo looks at 39 compared to Rooney, who was born in the same year. At the end of the day, we have to take responsibility for our actions and realize that what we do nowadays will most likely impact our future, in a good or in a bad way. It's undeniable that a great portion of Brazilian footballers are very fond of partying, and in many cases those parties aren't simple night outs. They are pathways to serious problems caused by alcohol abuse that eventually cloud their minds and keep them unfocused. How many times have you heard about Brazilian players having problems with women in nightclubs? I'm not saying they were all in the wrong like Dani Alves, but a rich and successful man exposing himself to opportunistic people in exchange for sex is simply a terrible idea. And while Brazilian players aren't the only ones living hedonistic lifestyles, there seems to be an obvious reason behind their actions. As you're probably aware, many Brazilian footballers come from absolute poverty, and from an early age, they see football as a way to escape it and help their families. Very rarely are they able to enjoy the typical night out experience, so when they're faced with everything that they could ever dream of, from attractive women to cars and jewelry, it's very hard to keep their feet on the ground. In most cases, since they're already set for life, they lose their drive to continue improving and fall into the traps that fame and influence bring. From that point on, they're in a vicious cycle extremely hard to escape. It starts with enjoying the nightlife. After all, one night out here and there shouldn't make too much of a difference. But in the world of high performance, it does make a huge difference. After all, sleeping is the most important mechanism when it comes to muscle recovery. When they deprive their bodies from it, they're unable to recover as fast, and soon enough, injuries come knocking at their doors. One minor injury doesn't destroy a player overnight, but repeated periods off the field undoubtedly mess with the player's confidence and overall mental health. In a way to cope with their frustrations, the players grab that easy dopamine fix that a night out brings, and then the cycle continues. Of course, I'm not saying every Brazilian player has such a mindset, and you can pick a bunch of European players that fall into that exact pattern of behavior. However, as I sit here trying to understand what goes through their minds when they willingly throw their careers away, I can't help but feeling bad even for those who appear reckless and careless at first sight. The fact of the matter is that Brazil has a massive football culture. For fuck's sake, football became the global phenomenon that it is today, not because the English spread it, but because Pelé made everyone fall in love with it. Pelé ended his career in 1977 and to this day, he is still considered by many the greatest player of all time. And while that's an incredible feat that firmly planted Brazil as perhaps the biggest footballing country in the world, it also doomed every Brazilian youngster. Ronaldo was the next Pelé, Neymar was the next Pelé, even Hendrick is the new Pelé. It's understandable that players have to eventually deal with the burden of living up to the expectations, but since the Brazilians have such a storied legacy, their prodigies have to deal with immense pressure from a very young age. Their own agents, even their own families, will market them as future legends and pressure them to live up to their potential, which will in most cases burn them mentally way before their bodies give up on them. Ultimately, I wish I could say that this will change in the future and there will be as many Brazilian world-class veterans as any other nations, but so far, nothing's pointing in that direction. People are still blindly hyping up players like Hendrick or Vitor Roque, and I'm sure the same will happen to the next batch of superstars that Brazil produces. But hopefully this video serves to spread awareness about the challenges that Brazilian superstars have to face from an early age and helps us all comprehend their actions in a more compassionate manner. And that is it for the video. Don't forget to leave a like so I know you want to watch more content like this, and subscribe to never miss the most interesting football discussions, stories and top 10 lists. Thank you for watching till the end, I appreciate you and I will see you soon.